She said it's for all the right.
So Harry Styles came into my work early last year, actually. I work at a Starbucks. I kind of talked about it before. But he came in, and the first day he came in, he just ordered his drinks, and it took me a few seconds to, comprehend that he was right in front of me. So after building up the courage, I went up to him, and I was like, "Hi, I'm a huge fan of yours. Love you, and I love your music. It's so nice to meet you." More shaky, obviously. And he's like, "So nice to meet you. Thank you so much. I'm Harry." And I'm like, "Of course I know who you are, sir." And we shook hands, and he asked for my name and all of that. And then he left, and it was great. And then the second day, he actually came in, which was a total shocker because I was just doing my homework with one of my really good friends, and we were just sitting there, and then I look up, and he's right in front of me, walking in, and I'm like, oh my god. So he built up the courage again to go up and say hi, and he actually recognized me from the day before and remembered my name. And this is the only picture I have of him.
So the summer before my first year of college, a bunch of friends and I decided to go on a week-long camping trip in northern Minnesota. And before we went, one of my friends actually decided to come up to me as bi. I was already out as gay, so he felt really comfortable telling me that. I wouldn't lie, he was really hot. But I wasn't gonna try anything, I didn't want to ruin our friendship or anything. And on this trip, we were in different tents, but some nights he would come over and hang out at night before we went to bed. And one night, he fell asleep in our tent. Somehow, we ended up spooning and cuddling, and eventually he tapped me on the shoulder and gestured for me to follow him out of the tent. And now I can say I've had sex in the middle of a fucking forest. Hell yeah.
When I was 13 or 14, my dad decided to take my best friend Stephanie and I to Warped Tour just to see All Time Low because I was absolutely batshit obsessed, still am. So we get in line for their meet and greet, which is really fucking long, and somebody from their team comes to us and says, "Hey, so sorry, but they have a show coming up in a few hours, so we're actually cutting off the line here, and unfortunately you can't meet them." So I start crying. My dad rushes to the front and begs them to let us stay in line so we can meet them because I'm a super fan. That same person from their team came to the back of the line where we are, grabbed us, took us to the front of the line where we got to meet All Time Low. We take pictures, they sign autographs, and then they're like, "Do you, your dad, and your friend want to do a private meet and greet after this?" So we're like, obviously, we go. They're so nice. They answer all of my fangirl questions. They said, "Come back in a few hours. We have another surprise." So we do, and they take us backstage to watch their entire set right next to them on the stage.
Okay, so Matthew Gray Grubler, he walked into my job. I took his order. He ordered an Americano. And I was like, "You look a lot like Matthew Gray Grubler. This is really off topic." And he was like, "Well, that's who I am." And I kind of screamed a little bit, but it's okay. And then we talked. He asked for my name, and he was like, "Oh, your name? It's in this book I'm reading about Dracula, the love interest, her name is Mina." And I was like, and then he complimented my ring and called me magical, and we talked some more. And then after that, there were people swarming him, talking to him and stuff and taking pictures with him. But when he left, right, when he was leaving, he saw me and he was like, "Bye, Mina." And I was like, "Oh!" And he also tipped $20.
So I used to be really good friends with this straight dude. We sat next to each other in biology, and it was the most unlikely friendship I think that could have possibly formed, but we talked about all sorts of shit. For some reason, it somehow worked. And I was also immensely attracted to him. And I was out too, he knew I was gay. I just didn't care, shockingly enough. And so one day we just somehow got on the topic of sending nudes or something, which I don't really do, but he was a whore, so he had plenty. And I had seen that before because one of my friends had shown me. And I told him that. I was like, "Hey, I've seen your nudes." And he goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, what'd you think?" And I didn't really know how to respond to that. So I said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't really remember." And he said, "Okay, let me jog your memory." And he pulls out his phone. And yeah.
My friends would kill me if I didn't tell this story, so we're gonna finally tell everybody. July 2019, Oxford, England. I was studying away for a semester, and this was my time to get away from my parents and finally find myself. And of course, I get to my dorm room, and the person that lives across from me is a very, very attractive person. So I kind of had a minor crush on them for the first week. And then in the second week, I developed a really big crush. And then we became friends. And then we went ice skating together. Then I held his hand while we ice skated because I almost fell and broke my back. And then he bought me like a $30 sweater. And then he kind of held me while I was crying about a lot of trauma one night. And then we take a field trip to London, and I confess my feelings for him. And of course, he doesn't feel the same. And then I never got to say goodbye to him. I slept through my alarm and I missed his cab. He's ghosted me ever since.
I met this dude and we both really, really, really loved music. And he asked me what kind of music I listened to, which is a difficult question to answer because I listen to almost everything. So I just made him a playlist that I felt kind of captured the essence of the music I like. And then he thanked me for the playlist and he asked me what my favorite song was. And that's a very difficult question because there's so many good songs out there, but I told him that it was Hearing by Sleeping at Last because that song is so beautiful and I have so many good memories associated with it and it makes me feel like I'm flying. It's an amazing song. And he also had synesthesia, so his brain perceived sounds as colors. And then one day, a couple weeks later, he showed up at my house with a painting. And he had painted my favorite song for me with his synesthesia. And to this day, I think it's one of the best gifts I've ever received. And I still have it hanging in my room. Here it is. My Samsung doesn't really do it justice, though.
Okay, so I was 17, high school senior, and I was at a Doc in the Box, Med Express, whatever you want to call it. And I was getting a physical done for my tennis season that was coming up. And the doctor walks in, it's pretty normal. And it gets to the point that every guy knows where you have to drop your pants and cough. And the doctor completely ignores his little stool and gets on his knees. I drop my pants, and while he is cupping my sweet little coin purse, he looks me dead in the eye and says, "Looks like you've done this before."
Okay, so my name is Azzy, that makes sense later, and I moved from Colorado to Florida my junior year of high school, right? And I made this friend, and she was telling me about people that go to our school. She had mentioned this guy, and she was like, "Oh my god, he's so cute, all of the girls fall for him," and I was like, I won't, I'm built different. Spoiler alert, I'm not built different, I fell in love at first sight, but it's cool. And the first conversation I had with this man's, he goes, "You're from Colorado, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna call you Colorado." And I was like, "God fucking damn it, that's adorable." Okay. So anytime he'd see me, he'd be like, "You're doing great, Colorado. Stay hydrated." And I'd be like, whatever. Turns out he refused to call me Azzy, my name, because he thought it was a nickname people had given me because I have anxiety. But now we're in love and dating, so.
Okay, story time. I was in love with this boy back in 7th grade because he showed me a Minecraft Let's Play. I don't know, I didn't know why I did that either, but I wasn't cool back then and he didn't know who I was, but I was still marry me. And then 8th grade, he left for boarding school, so I was like, okay, whatever, see ya, deuces. Flash forward about 5 years, I just got dumped by my partner of 4 around Christmas, so great Christmas gift. And so for Christmas, my family decides to go to Cancun, Mexico, and while we were there, I'm not gonna lie, I was going through it. That was pretty fucking sad. Flash forward, it's the day after Christmas, and I'm gonna come out by saying that I was reading fanfic. I know. And all of a sudden behind me, I just hear Ren. And it's the boy from 7th grade. Long story short, I snuck out of the balcony of my hotel room and I met him on the beach and we hooked up in a cabana in the middle of Mexico, so. And then later that night, I threw up and then later figured out that I was gay, so.
So first semester of freshman year of college, I had the biggest crush on this junior in my Intro to Egyptian Hieroglyphs class. He was tall, smart, funny, he had a beard, glasses, very... I'm losing my mind just thinking about it. And for an entire semester, Tuesdays and Thursdays, baby, I was in that class. Egyptian Hieroglyphs was already interesting, so I was already gonna show up, but baby, I was never late, I never missed a class, no. I remember our class even went on a trip to New York one time and I got to talk to him even more and it was just marry me. So I basically spent all semester pining after this man, never doing anything about it. The most I ever did was one time I texted asking him for help with the hieroglyphs homework because now fast forward a year and a half, it's the end of sophomore year. I'm trying to up my coins, get a little check because I'm bored. So I get this job as a hostess at a restaurant in DC. My first day, I go in to fill paperwork. I'm walking in the office, I hear my name. I turn towards the sound, and who do I see but my crush carrying a plate of trays as they walk to the back because now we work